We humans are born with a flame burning up inside us. The intensity of this flame is different for everyone, but it burned the brightest for a man named Laurence. The nature of this flame is fleeting, but some of us recognize it for what it is, the scorching fire of ambition. But like with all fires, one must be careful not to be seared by the heat. And Laurence's flame was so massive, it lit up like a bonfire. While growing up, Laurence was an overachiever, always expecting nothing but the best from himself. This, as well as his knack for learning, gave him a definite edge during his school years, which he went through getting all sorts of prizes and accolades. Yet he was hungry for more. Just like a moth to a flame, his appetite for success led him directly to the College of Byrgenwerth. The prestigious College of Byrgenwerth had a well-deserved reputation for researching the cutting edge, and for having no taboos within the institution. The main goal of the institution was to achieve total understanding, and no one embodies this mentality better than its headmaster, Willem. Master Willem was a man of few words, proud and stoic, and with a gaze that seemed to pierce through your bones and far beyond. This man was a pillar of the world of academia, and the shadow he casted was deep, so of course when it came to meeting him, Laurence's nerves were a complete wreck. But the moment he was finally faced with the man, his nervousness mutated into excitement. After all, this man was a titan in scholarly circles, and he would definitely be the one that could guide Laurence to that peak of academic excellence that he had pursued his whole life. Next to Willem stood a very imposing tall man, robed in crimson, who looked positively terrifying. "This is my good friend Doris. Do not mind him. He is kinder than he looks." Laurence felt put off by this man's presence, but if Master Willem said he was all right, who was he to doubt him? After the interview with Master Willem, Laurence undertook an examination to prove if he was Byrgenwerth material. He was dying of nervousness waiting for the results, but shortly thereafter he was informed that he had passed, and that he was now a member of the prestigious College of Byrgenwerth. From then on, rising through the ranks at Byrgenwerth felt like business as usual for Laurence, but his penchant for excellence and his deep curiosity left a lasting impression on Master Willem, who took Laurence under his wing as his personal protege. The College of Byrgenwerth conducted expeditions on several sites, and their main focus was to obtain transcendental knowledge, and gain knowledge enough to commune with the Old Ones. To this effect, senior members of the college were allowed access to a series of very dangerous catacombs and tombs that contained several artifacts relating to the Old Ones. Laurence was ecstatic when he was first allowed access to these sacred grounds, and he began taking in every little tidbit of knowledge and insight that he could find whenever he was allowed access. "Fear the old blood, Laurence," Master Willem would repeat to him, as if reciting an incantation, every single time Laurence went on an expedition. This, of course, weighed heavily on Laurence's mind. He idolized Willem, but the burden of the thought would instantly disappear the moment he found a new relic or artifact. It was not long until Laurence understood the true peril behind the expeditions to the catacomb. On one of his many days researching some data at the college, Laurence was greeted with an astounding scene. As he was pulling up one of the tomes from the bookshelf, a few of Byrgenwerth's scholars stumbled in coming back from an expedition. Their demeanor was frantic, and they seemed to be yelling for aid as they were dragging one of them, who was frenziedly babbling incoherent lines. As it turned out, this esteemed scholar was a member of one of the parties that had gone to the catacombs to research, and, as Master Willem put it, he had gotten in contact with an eldritch truth, and had now been driven mad by it. Laurence could not shake the image from his head, but his resolve went unshaken. He pushed on. From that point on, both Laurence and the rest of Byrgenwerth continued to research the Great Ones, as well as any elements from the cultures that had worshipped them in the past. And in so doing, they did not only acquire valuable artifacts, but they would also put their sanity and well-being on the line. One of the elements that concerned Laurence the most was the blood of the Old Ones. After all, during several of the incursions to the catacombs, Laurence noticed that one could find small quantities of cold blood strewn about in the dungeons. On one occasion, he noticed that one of the prospectors that had accompanied them as bodyguards was severely injured by one of the twisted abominations found in the dungeon. However, Laurence noticed that by using some of the blood, his wound had been miraculously healed. When he asked Master Willem about this, the old man immediately sprang up. "Do not use the blood, Laurence. You need to respect and fear the old blood." The old man was almost frantic at this point, but he quickly regained his composure. "Our eyes are yet to open, Laurence. Always remember that." From that moment on, any talk of the blood would immediately generate the same tired old line from the old man. Fear the old blood. Did he not know how powerful this was? How this was the knowledge that they had all been looking for? But Laurence reluctantly accepted to drop it. Byrgenwerth's research focused mostly on acquiring knowledge, and on what Master Willem called eyes. He constantly would launch into these rants and tirades in which he would mention that we needed eyes on the inside, and how our eyes were yet to open. This all seemed like mumbo-jumbo to Laurence, and he always thought of it as a metaphor for greater insight into the Great Ones. But Master Willem took it seriously. At that point in time, Byrgenwerth was already a great institution, but their academic influence only kept on increasing, and they became the foremost experts in regards to anything relating to the Great Ones. As such, it was not strange that they received countless requests to review strange phenomena that happened in other places, and whenever these requests piqued their interest, they would immediately assemble a team and send them to analyze the disturbances on site. Most of their requests were phony, nothing but old wives' tales and local legends, but occasionally they would stumble upon some things that were far more interesting and precious. One of such requests came from a small fishing village. Due to the reliability of the source and the danger at hand, Willem decided to send his best people, especially the best hunter they had, in order to protect the researchers. After all, they all knew what kind of abominations sprouted in the dungeons when the Old Ones were involved, and so Willem himself asked their best hunter, groundskeeper German, to go. Once the Byrgenwerth researchers arrived to the village, they were terrified by what they found. The whole village had been transformed into fish-like abominations. This fact alone let the Byrgenwerth scholars know that they were dealing with a genuine artifact, an old one. However, even though they still retained some of their wits, the monstrous villagers did not want to give up their secret, and so the scholars sent word to Byrgenwerth. Shortly thereafter, a sealed envelope with an order came from Byrgenwerth. Do anything that you need to do in order to secure that Old One specimen. And so, German, his small apprentice, Maria, and the rest of the Byrgenwerth hunters were tasked with doing the unthinkable. And so they did. Countless villagers fell to the Scythemaster and the hunting party, and when they finally reached the end, most of the village had been destroyed. And there they were finally greeted with their prize, a washed-up, dead Old One. The information and knowledge that Byrgenwerth gained from their expedition to the fishing village was staggering, but it all served to show Laurence that more aggressive means were at his disposal, and maybe finally something could be done about the blood situation. Laurence pleaded with Master Willem several times, but Willem would have none of it, until finally Laurence decided to just do it.
Master Willem, I've come to bid you farewell.
Oh, I know. You think now to betray me.
No, but you will never listen. I tell you, I will not forget our adage.
We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. Our eyes are yet to open.
Fear the old blood. I must take my leave.
By the gods, fear it, Laurence.
Without Willem's leash, Laurence is finally able to start experimenting and using the blood, and his results were astounding. There were no diseases that the blood could not cure, and it even granted athletic and other physical benefits to the user. This was it. This was what Laurence had always strived for. And so, in an effort to expand the influence of the old blood, Laurence founded the Healing Church. Time passed, and the influence of the Healing Church becomes massive. People come from all around the land to receive this miraculous restorative elixir, and people join the church in droves. However, there was more to it than that. Little by little, some of the individuals that had received treatment with the blood began to turn into bloodthirsty beasts. They would lose their sanity and wits in the process. This was a tragedy for Laurence, and so, an arm of the church is founded to hunt these beasts and keep everything under wraps. The church hunters, who would be spearheaded by Ludwig. With everything to lose, and with his master's orders right behind him, Ludwig pushes his hunters to eliminate every single nugget of infection, but some of them turn into beasts themselves. The scourge becomes so bad that the powder kegs, an arm of the church hunters, are ordered to burn old Yarnum to the ground. Weak-minded and weak-willed fools. They cannot handle the greatness of this gift. Laurence was completely blinded by his ambition, and so, even though it had already been proven to be dangerous, he kept trying to use the blood to grow the influence and power of the church. Little by little, Laurence lost himself to his impulses, chipping away at his conscience, until one day, there was no more left from his humanity. Humans are ambitious beings by nature. But even though our ambitions help to spur us on, we must always be wary to learn from young Icarus' tale, and not let our ambition burn us to the bone.